I'm trying to get better about reminding the audience, like, welcome back to Emotionally Unavailable. I'm your host, Malisa Hepner. I keep forgetting that shit. But other than that, whatever. Okay, so I don't have your PodMatch profile open now, so I'm not going to be able to word this question exactly how I would have. But it's not even Friday. I just wish it was Friday. Like, if it was going to feel like this, I just wish it was Friday, you know? That's what it feels like. Like, it's been a long week.
It- Melissa, it's Friday Junior.
That's true.
It's
That's
Friday
true.
Junior. It's
I
Friday
felt this way
Junior.
yesterday, and when I realized it was Wednesday, I was like, "Oh my god, it's the longest week in history." Cool. It's okay. We're gonna
I
make it.
mean, I feel like, yeah, I think you can just go ad lib it or you can pull up the tab. I'm here for
No,
it.
it's all
Whatever
right.
works for you.
It's no
Okay.
worries to me. Okay, but here's what I
Good.
will say.
Okay.
So I'm super excited about this conversation because we're really talking about that high performing teen or tween, and I to simplify that, I would say we really look for these certain little metrics to say whether or not our children are succeeding, and then we pile it onto them so badly. um you, in your profile, you really talked about how that was your experience too, that you were the high achiever. Are you the
hmm
oldest daughter in your family or what? Yeah.
Yep, you got that right.
Do you have brothers?
Yep. I have two brothers that
I
are
fucking
10 and
knew
8 years
it.
younger than me.
Yeah, I knew it. Fucking knew it. Okay, cool. Okay.
I love this. Can we just do this all day? This is fantastic.
Absolutely. This
I'm
is
having
how
a
we
great
do it.
time.
This is how the show runs. We're
That's how
super
we do.
cash.
That's right.
Okay, so what
Yeah.
part of the country did you grow up in?
Connecticut. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's a little
Excuse me.
different
Why? Where'd
too.
you?
Well, I'm in
Why?
Oklahoma,
What are you
but
thinking?
it's just, y'all a
Okay.
little
Yeah.
different up there. Y'all, so is Connecticut technically part of New England?
Yes. Yep. I
Yeah.
grew up in New England, and I've been in Miami for the past decade.
Oh my God. This is so funny because I just met somebody yesterday, grew up in Boston and now lives in like the southernmost point of like Portugal or something. Like needs the sunshine after all those years of the clouds. So
Totally.
yeah, good for you. Okay. Were you kind of responsible for your brothers as well? Like, did you have to help take care of them?
Yeah, I mean, I think later in life I realized that's probably the reason I don't have kids of my own is because I spend so much time, gladly spent time taking care of them, and then when I got married and when I got divorced, I lived this life, and now I'm like, oh, that's why I didn't have kids. I kind of had them already for
Yes.
quite some time.
Do you think
Right,
that your
right.
responsibilities at home contributed to the level of burnout that you felt through this expectation of achievement also? Like both of those combined?
Yeah, I think it was maybe not the actual, like, I have to take care of this child and make him lunch, but more of the emotional, carrying of the emotional needs of, like, my mom having anxiety or, more my dad getting upset, those kind of things
Mhm.
versus the physical day to day, yeah, that was, but I was okay with that. But I think I didn't realize like the subconscious, like what I was taking on internally and emotionally being in that
Yeah.
role. Yeah.
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 So
Mhm.
what did your mom kind of use you as like her therapist like most of the boomers did or what?
Yeah, I think inadvertently, not
Yeah.
realizing it. But yeah, it was, I knew, she would share things about their her and my dad's relationship. Nothing personal like that, but just how she
Yeah.
was frustrated or upset, and I was just like, and I don't know what I said at that point. I was a kid,
Yeah,
and
right.
then, so, and we're very close to this day. So, but yes, I can reflect on that and say, oh, that probably was something she should have shared with a girlfriend or someone
Did
else.
she
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
girlfriends?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. No, no, not necessarily.
Right.
Some potentially like more of a acquaintances and people you did things with once in a while, but it was heavy family, which is great. Yet it was my grandma or my aunt. Those were the things. So, or the people.
Yeah,
So I, like, to your point, no, did she have the support system that I might have today where I can go to my friend? No, it's different. It's totally different.
right. So generational.
Uh,
And then, like, why it's not
mhm,
all that helpful to be able to go to, like, your sister or your mother who, are a part of a toxic system. Whether, I mean, that's not talking shit. It's just that whole generation and the one before them, all
mhm,
codependent and mesh toxic shit. So if
mhm.
they're just a part of your system and that's kind of all
Yep,
you're used to, you're in an echo chamber. So it's so tough
yep.
because you're being told too that family should be the most important thing and taking care of these children should be the thing that you get the most joy out of. And listen, as a mom, it's fucking not. And that's that, period. Like, yeah, there are really great parts of it and there are parts that suck so bad. And all parts of me deserve love and attention, and you know what I mean? So that's what I
Mhm,
really think has happened with that generation, is that the one before them was like, no, I mean, you're supposed to be, this is barefoot and pregnant. Go take care of them children, and
mhm.
all this shame and all this judgment, which then gets passed down through the oldest daughter usually. Um, okay. So here's what, like, where my brain really lit up when thinking about talking about this topic today
Mhm.
was, how in the hell can you teach intrinsic motivation and encourage development and achievement without it having a shame component? Because, like, we talk about this as adults a lot, like, how y'all making yourself go to the gym since you started loving yourself? Because when
Mm,
I was motivated by spite, I could do about anything. I mean, I could be like, "Fuck them, I'm gonna show them," you know? I'm not motivated by that anymore. So, I operate from a place of, like, love and compassion for myself, and it is hard to make myself do some of the things. Like, I can get my work done, but, like, going to the gym, eating healthy, not so much. So
mm.
what do you say? Like, how can we encourage our kids to be the best, and even want to strive for things without it being your worth and value are attached to achievement, or even I'm disappointed if you're not achieving?
Well, it's funny you say that because success without self is the cycle that people get into. So that's kind of what you're saying. So you have the high achiever where their achievement becomes their identity. And then you
Yes.
have the other side of it where you kind of said where, like, you're unmotivated, like you just aren't doing these things. And I think it all comes down to identity and self belief. And like, if you don't love going to the gym, it feels like work, and you use food to feel comfortable, or, whatever it might, and you just want to eat what you want to eat. How is that a problem? Okay, well, it's your health. It's, there's a list of reasons it could be a problem. But do you see it as a problem? If it's not a problem for you, you're not going to shift it. So it's
Right.
and it's ultimately, um, you know, can you motivate another person? You can't. You can't.
No.
So it comes down to helping, like, so if you have an unmotivated teen, my job is to help them remove the resistance, like the root cause issues of what is getting in the way for them. They may eat and they don't know why they're eating. They're just eating because they think they're hungry, or they may not get good grades. What I really help them do is figure out their patterns. Okay, now that you know the pattern of why you're doing what you're doing, you have
Yeah.
power, and you have
Yeah.
the power to shift it. So it's helping them shift it and step into their power, and not kind of get in their own way, really. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not an easy answer of, like, you just give them this and then they're motivated. Like,
Right, right.
it's complex. Yet it is very possible. And are they really unmotivated? Because I bet you they're super motivated to be playing that sport or be on that video game or whatever it might be, right? They just might not be motivated to do things that are boring to them,
Sure, sure. That
you
makes sense.
know? So,
So have you worked with a teen who didn't necessarily wanna work with you, but their parents said, "Work with my kid." Sign them up
um,
or whatever.
yeah, so a lot of parents that I work with, they make the decision, so it's like
Sure.
they need this. but the way I always kind of soften that is, I do a session with the kid, I just get to know them a little bit, build a little bit of rapport. 9 times out of 10, they like me, and that's the first step of just building some rapport. Um, I think the only time that it doesn't work is if they're completely unwilling, and I won't take them on because you can't force someone to work on
Sure.
themselves.
Mhm.
So I think I have enough of discernment. Like, there's something to be said about a parent taking the first step and being a leader in their home and signing them up for something they know is good. And maybe the first few sessions I go easy, I take it
Sure.
easy. We don't go deep. But yeah, I mean, there's some, it's teenagers. Yes, they often give me resistance, and it might not be disrespectful, but it's like, I was talking to mom yesterday, and her son loves working with me. He's small. He's like 11, but sometimes we work together, and after we work together, he goes and he's crying, "I never wanna work with her again." But you know what it is because we started getting deep on some things, and it was and he felt it.
And you didn't know what to do
And
with it. Yeah.
he and that's what we're working on, is working on big emotions. How do you handle them? And it's dad issues, and it's all these things. So when we touch on school, or okay, he's good to go. But when we get to those other things, you gotta buckle up. Like, this is this is where we're going. So,
Yeah, I can
um,
hardly
so
even tolerate that with adults. Like, if I'm being really, 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 really real, this is something I'm stretching in actually in my practice is tolerating adults who are a little resistant to the process at times because it's not what lights me up. You know what I mean? It's like yeah, I really would just rather be in the synergy of things, but whatever. I'm learning to grow through
yeah, I
this
mean,
thing.
yeah, that's life. I mean, no, I'm not going to force anyone into coaching. Do I think it's good for everyone? Absolutely.
Sure, yeah.
And it could be, if you want to do coaching with me, maybe someone else is right for you. That's fine too. But
Yeah,
with that being said, no, not everyone's going to be 100% doing all of the things that you've outlined for them. And it may be that it just, in their own time, they're going to do it. So maybe this week isn't going to be the week they implement a certain habit or strategy that you spoke
sure.
about with them. But maybe we put that in our back pocket and we talk about that in a couple weeks from now, right?
Yeah.
So
What are
it's meeting them where
patterns
they're at.
that you're seeing with teens that well, just in general, what are some patterns you're seeing?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of patterns I see is, well, one of the overarching themes is, I said earlier, their achievement becomes their identity, excuse me.
Mhm.
And they're very achievement based, very outcome oriented, and I'm trying to shift them to think about the process and the progress that they're making. And some of the patterns might be that a lot of negative self talk, and thinking they're not good enough. That's like a core theme, and it's
Mhm.
shifting, and it's shifting to, not right from negative to positive. We might need to go to neutral first and then to positive. But seeing themselves differently, not trusting themselves. So the more pressure they place on themselves, the more fear based their thoughts are. Then
Mhm.
they just kind of keep those busy schedules. They're super productive and very responsible, yet they don't trust themselves. They're overthinking. They are very dependent. Can't make a mistake.
Yes.
Uh huh. Uh
The same
huh.
shit I'm
Yeah.
working with adults on. Yeah. It's funny because I think it was like one of the time like reading through your profile and you talking about your experience with this like personally that I was like, yeah, we really are all just the same, aren't we? And it really does start that young. I wish that I could have seen so much even like as an adult, I wish that it would have been easier to pinpoint kind of where some of that started. But yeah, it's interesting because I have an almost 12-year-old and then I also have a 23-year-old, but just watching them kind of learn to navigate the world and they're very similar even though they're 12 years apart. They're very similar.
Hmm.
And they're my two that I achievement equals identity and so we struggle with things like imposter syndrome and things like that. But I can see myself in them so much that I'm like, wow, this really is just the
Hmm.
human experience, isn't it? Mhm. This is just what we do to
Yeah.
ourselves.
Yeah, and like you said earlier, so we spoke about parents and that generation, and my mom did get a therapist for herself, and then I had a therapist, and so that was step 1 of
Nice.
that generation, reaching out for help. So I think it's like each generation gets more and more open to support. Now, kids
Yes.
sometimes, like you said, sometimes they'll give resistance, like there's nothing wrong with me. That's what they'll say to their parents. But
Yeah.
coaching's different. It's not that there's something wrong with you. It's we're trying to get you I want you to thrive. So, where you're already good, let's get better. And
Right.
it's not necessarily that there's a problem. So I think as the generations become, more and more open to support, you're going to see a lot of shifts, in your our generation and in our your kids' generation for sure.
So
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
you this is literally I'm literally just asking this because I'm curious.
Mhm.
Do parents more come to you because they're annoyed at something their child's not doing, or
Mm.
because their child is having a hard time, like, not beating themselves up over things?
Yeah. I think, hmm, I'm just kind of running my mind over it. Some parents will come to me in a crisis. There's a social media issue. My kid's depressed, something like that.
Mhm.
But more often than not, I get the second answer that you just shared. Like my kid's really good. They're great in school. But I want to build their confidence, or the sport they're playing. It's their mindset. They're so negative on themselves. So majority of my clients are quote unquote good kids, so
Mhm.
it's not like they're taking the car without permission,
Sure,
or they're lighting
sure.
stuff on fire, so it's not necessarily the problem. It's more of the um I see them at the next level, can you help them get there? Yeah.
Yeah. Because I feel like one of the things that, is just a real negative to being the high achiever of a family is that I feel like it can really get you overlooked sometimes when you are needing help. Maybe it's not a full-blown crisis, but if you're still meeting all the metrics, because like for me, my grandma, because she was my primary caregiver, when my dad died suddenly when I was 15, she was very shitty about just constantly saying I didn't take it as hard as my brothers. And she's like, "'Cause because they did go buck wild and batshit crazy." But I was like, "Oh, are you saying because I'm still codependent and people pleasing the shit out of my life? Like I'm making sure you're staying happy with me and I'm doing all the things I'm supposed to do and hitting all the little check boxes that you've set for me. That means I'm taking it better." Okay, cool. Thank you. And I feel like that's been a running theme my whole life, was just that, like, the resilient label, you know what I mean? Like, just the, "Oh, you're so strong." I mean, and it was one of the things, like, that was an identity that I really carried for a long time, and then that label, mm, strong women do and don't do what? Like, like, having to unravel that, and then to where I was like, okay, if that's strong, I don't wanna be strong anymore. I wanna be soft. I wanna be loved. I wanna be held. I wanna be nurtured. I wanna connect. You know what I mean? But I feel like it for women specifically, I feel like this can start in adolescence where we're like, "Oh, they have friends. They're socializing. They're out of the drama. They've got at least one extracurricular activity that they're excelling in," you know? And then we just, like, overlook.
Hmm.
That's me
Yeah.
projecting.
Yeah. No, I mean, I can relate. My father passed away when I was 25, but my brothers were in high school, and
Mm.
that hit them really hard. Uh, I was already kind of with my soon to be husband, and that ended up in divorce. That's not the point, but I was kind of out of the house per se. But yeah, I mean, didn't really talk to anybody about that. I just kind of handled it. It was, like my best friend just passed. Like, so it's like you had to be strong in that moment. I had to be strong in that moment. And I've been to what you were just talking about through my career, more in that masculine energy. I was a principal. I was, running all these,
Were you
managing all these
really?
people. Yeah,
Okay,
I was,
yeah.
yeah. So I was, managing thousands of kids and parents and hundreds of staff members, all the things. And I kind of became this person I didn't like being.
Yeah.
An easy way to explain it is like masculine energy. And so
Yes.
like,
I lived
and
in my
you
masculine. Yeah, I totally resonate.
Exactly, and you just spoke about the whole, like, I wanna be soft, and so now it's like, I slow down my days, I'm productive, yet I very balanced, I work out, all the things where I was always rushing around before trying to get
Yes.
where so and it's like, do I work with a lot of moms because they are on that hamster wheel and it's like, but for what purpose? Who are you keeping up
Yeah.
with?
Yeah.
Your basic needs are met. You're not going to lose your job. Like, you mean it's kind of like putting it into perspective of,
Yeah.
and, let so and so take care of you. Let yourself take an hour to yourself. And I had to learn all those things. And, like you said, and it's just more stepping into that feminine energy. Yeah.
Absolutely. That is hilarious.
Mhm.
Okay, can I get a little review of just like your life from adolescence to now? I'm just curious. I don't know if I just missed it or what. I didn't know you were in education. I did a 7-year stint in education.
Yeah,
Hardest shit
awesome.
ever,
Um,
worst job ever, least pay ever, worst experience of my life.
what was your role in education?
Well, I became emergency certified as a 5th grade teacher, and I did that for 2 2.5 years because the 3rd year was COVID, and
Mhm,
we didn't come back after spring break. Thank God, I was done. Wanted to die. But then I switched to school counselor because, like, my background is in social work. So I was like, I'm
mhm.
probably just much better suited. Hated all of it, hated every bit of it. I mean, in Oklahoma, education is a disaster anyway, just from the top down. But it was just, it's just the system is too toxic, and they pit all the little teachers against each other, and everybody hates each other, and nobody's doing their job. And that's all anybody ever says is they don't do their job, and they don't do anything. And then 7 years, worst mistake of my life, except for that I feel like it was absolutely, I was supposed to do it. But I wish in some ways that I hadn't. If I didn't believe so spiritually in the path that I've taken, I would have major regrets over it. But it was a part of the plan, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah, fair. I mean, it happened for a reason. What it's basically the question you ask yourself is, what did I learn from this experience? It served its purpose. Yeah, I was an educator for 20 years. I was a teacher, assistant
Wow.
principal, and yeah, and a college professor. So I did middle school, high school, and college. And yeah, I thoroughly support, there's a lot of good educators out there,
Absolutely.
no hard feeling, so there's people work out really hard for not a lot of money and they take on all the
Exactly.
extra things. And so but with that being said, I partially started my own business because it was just, I was, all the hours and the time and I could, wasn't being fairly compensated, but that was
Sure.
part of it. But more so than ever was the fact that was I really helping families? I was always too busy. I had too many papers on my desk and not enough
Right.
time to help people. I kind of like said, "This is what you should do," and I kind of like, I kind of 2-minute conversations,
Yeah.
that was it. So the reason I started the business was to just really help families at a deeper level. I kept seeing the same concerns, the same issues, and I couldn't really address them or help them. And so um, I left the system and started this, and it's been fantastic. And I feel like I would rather help a smaller amount of families on a deeper level than, thousands of families and at just a surface level. So it's been a great journey. Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds amazing. Okay, so let me ask you this because some of my audience base is educators. So,
Mhm.
um, if we were to speak directly to them about one small shift they could make when communicating with their students, because you know how it is. Like all we go to these trauma informed
Mhm.
trainings and we leave those trauma informed trainings feeling so ready to attack the school year and all this dumb PD that we get and whatever. And we're so ready. And then we get there and life be lifing and the job is hard and whatever. w- for those educators that just want to be able to try to reach a child, is there one or two things that we could say to them in terms of their approach with a kid?
Yeah, I mean, and to your point, it's very difficult. It's partially the reason why certain initiatives don't work is like you're the science teacher, you can't be the science teacher and the guidance counselor. So if we're going to do this mindfulness initiative, you want me to hit my science goals on the and year-end
Yes,
test,
and they're
yet
expecting you to
also
do it all.
right.
Yes.
Correct. And schools are fantastic for academics, yet they're not set up for emotional support. It's just not the way it is. And so I think what happens with educators instead of implementing a whole new system and trying to do like advisory group and support kids, and I think if you can look at the kids with curiosity, meet them where they're at. They might not be where you need them to be reading wise or math wise, but I think it's also practicing how you're going to speak to them and coach them through things. So
Yeah.
it's not fixing it for them. It's not giving them the answer. I mean, obviously, we don't give them the answer, but we don't realize how much we actually do give them the answer
Oh, I
because we need
did.
to move
Yeah, I was
on.
the worst at
Yeah.
that. I was the worst.
Or,
Even as a
or you keep
parent, I've struggled with that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you wanna fix it, you wanna move on, you want to see them
Yeah, I'm just
struggling, you want
impatient,
yeah,
Just fucking just
and
there.
right, so you have to give them that productive struggle, that time it takes
Yeah.
them way longer to process things than it takes you to process it. Plus, you already learned it, of course you're gonna know it. So, I think giving them that time, that space, but I think it's all about inquiry, like, letting them figure it out on their own, and if something gets difficult and hard for kids, and instead of just being like, "Oh, okay," and giving in and helping, it's, "Well, what do you think about that?" Or, "Are you sure this is true?" Or, "What do you see that I don't see?" Or, kind of just putting it off and saying like, "This is your problem to tackle," like, and letting them problem solve.
Mhm.
I think that's the key, and that in any subject area, it doesn't matter what subject we're talking about. And I understand very clearly that teachers are on a schedule. They have to get to certain points in the curriculum and they have to hit certain standards. And
Absolutely.
that's very tough to then not just call on the same kid because he got the right answer.
We
Let's
were
move on,
just talking
right?
about that yesterday, me and my oldest, because he was always, like, you'd roll your eyes while you're calling on the kid that, like, will raise their hand every time because you're like, "Fuck, that's easiest, that's fine, answer the question again." But I think what you're hitting on is the part where I really failed myself in education, is I couldn't stay regulated in those moments because they triggered my shame, because I have
Mm,
someone bigger than me I feel communicating to me that I'm a piece of shit or whatever in any amount of feedback, constructive or not, because I don't know how to validate myself. So, like,
hmm
because truly in social work, I was born to do that job because I mostly worked in hospice. So, like, loved it. I excelled, great reputation in the field. Like, I was amazing at that job. I knew exactly how to do that job, and then I come into education, and I know nothing about anything, and, like, no, day 1, "This was not a good decision for me. This is really hard. I have no idea what I'm doing." So, because of that, I couldn't even take constructive criticism, and I'll be honest, I was around other people who were not able to regulate themselves at all either, so most of it wasn't constructive. So,
hmm
then you add just the system in general where we are having these standards imposed that make no sense, and we're being told, especially in the district that I worked in, you have to be the guidance counselor in the room. You're not allowed to send this kid to the office, classroom managed behaviors. So all of that together, all I can feel is like a giant failure every minute of every work day. I mean, I will say I had great boundaries. I wasn't taking that shit home. I sure the hell didn't. Not a single day was I like, let me go grade papers at home or any of that. I'd plan on Sundays, but that was it. But I just had no way of understanding, like, oh, this is a me problem. Like, I don't have to take every ounce of their behavior personally. I understood that a little bit, but I didn't understand why I was taking it and how I was taking it personally. This this doesn't need to trigger my shame. This is just like a math
Mhm.
problem. But it did. I was just living in my shit nonstop.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, you know, kids aren't out to push your buttons or on purpose stress you out. None of it's personal. None of it's personal. And if you can't regulate yourself as a teacher, as a parent, as whatever, then you're focusing on the behavior, but it's not about the
Right.
behavior. In parenting, it's like if you're going to sit on your phone at dinner and not communicate and not talk and expect, there to be connection there, there's not going to be. Put your
Mhm.
phone down, put your work aside, set time together for your family and do something valuable together. Um, eh,
So
mhm.
when did things start shifting for you? Cuz it sounds like not until like after your marriage, like where you really started getting more in the feminine and understanding why maybe you had, I don't know, some perfectionism and whatever else.
Yeah, so I think a lot of it for me was, yeah, later when when I started to realize, like, in my career, I wasn't really becoming who I want. I didn't feel like I was being authentic. I wasn't really who I wanted to be. I was just full of stress, anxiety. I was actually in the program to become a principal, and I just dropped out, and it was really hard because I'm not a quitter, right? But I
Yeah.
realized, like, what am I doing this for? I already had in another state. I had a higher degree than I needed to be a principal, but I was like, "Well, I'm doing all this. I'm starting to make mistakes at my current job. I'm have no time for myself." I moved to Florida and I haven't gone to the beach in I don't know how long. So what's the point? What am I doing this for? What's the point?
Yeah.
And so then and my also, things weren't, good with my marriage, and I just kind of woke up to the fact of, like, I'm living a life that I- you know that I don't know that I love. I mean, on the outside, it was great. We have great house and cars and vacations and, all of these things. Yet, is this a truly like mature, intimate relationship, or is this, I don't know, just for show? And I realized, like, I knew between the job and the divorce, I was just completely disconnected with myself. And
Mm.
yeah, that's where it all kind of blew up, but in a good way, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. It's there's always that
Yeah.
turning point, right?
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Why
and
does
that's
it
where it
always
shifted.
have to come with complete destruction first? I just don't know.
I mean, I guess it doesn't have to, but yeah, a lot of times it does come with, like, a fork in the road, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
a big one, a big one.
yep. Yeah, and I
So
think
where
it's
can we find your information and what you're doing
yeah,
out there?
yeah, absolutely. Social media. So you can find me on Instagram, you can follow me, find me on Facebook, friend me, and I have YouTube page and website and all that kind of stuff,
Oh,
but,
right on.
social media is pretty much yeah, find me on social media, it's just under my name. And, a lot of good stuff there for you. Yeah.
Right
Yeah.
on. And I'll make sure that I include those links in the show notes too. Anything that you've
Yeah, you
got
got
pretty
it.
much in your profile, I usually will include. So make sure, audience, to check out the show notes. My link tree is
Yeah.
always there too. So whatevs. Well, thank you so much for being here. Seriously, I really appreciate it. And I had such a good time with you.
I did as well. Thank you so much for having me. So fun.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm going to press stop if you'll hang out for 1 sec.
Sure.
Thanks for coming to Emotionally Unavailable. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, and share.